So what's on the agenda? What's going down?
Oh, Chris, I am going to come back with such a big suitcase full of Toyota Century car parts.
Wow.
Hello and welcome to the Abroad in Japan podcast. Probably the best way of learning about life in Japan without actually being in Japan. I'm your host, Chris Broad, and we're joined, as always, by England's top Japan enthusiast, Mr. PeteDawson.com. Pete, how the devil are you doing?
Steady.
What's going on?
That sounded a bit Kim.com. Look at mega
Pete.com.
I'm good, Chris. Chris, good news or bad news, depending on whether you're Chris Broad or not. I'm coming back to Japan in a few weeks' time. Back end of November, me, Chris, in a room, probably that room, recording a couple of podcasts. That's what we're doing. So I'm very, very excited. It's going to be a full 6 days for me, looking at all of the and the old planes gotten expensive. Oh dear, I'm going to be flying in economy for 14 hours.
Nice.
And so I'm going to be in all kinds of trouble, I imagine.
What airline? What airline are you flying with?
BA. I've got Avios, baby. I've got Avios, so
good.
I need to cash them in, really. So it should be as quick as it possibly can be, and I'll be dosed up on sleeping tablets, I imagine.
Are you going to raw dog it? Are you going to do the thing where you stare at the back of the seat for 14 hours?
No, I'm going to drink some tomato juice and vodka, watch a Marvel film, and then hopefully fall asleep.
God,
and you're going to. God intended.
You sure you're going to have sleeping tablets along with vodka? Is that a good idea? Is that a good start to your trip in Japan?
I think most Hollywood starlets who passed in their 30s probably would agree that it's the taste of a new generation, Chris. But yeah, it's not full sleeping tablets. The ones you can get on the old Nitors you get at the airport.
Right.
They're not very good. They're just basically strong antihistamines.
Yeah. They do help though. They do help. That's great though. I mean, you haven't been over here since last September or August, and I remember when you came over here, I wasn't here because you're a muppet.
I've done that a few times, to be fair.
Yeah. You're a dickhead. And so I'm firmly here this time, so far as I know, unless I get called to Buckingham Palace again for another dinner.
Yeah. That would be annoying.
That would be fun.
That'd be annoying. And I'll have several conversations with my partner about you said you're doing this because of work. It's work.
What are you looking forward to doing the most, though? What's on the agenda? What's going down?
Oh, Chris, I am going to come back with such a big suitcase full of Toyota Century car parts. You have no. I'm going to be spending most of my time in the breaker's yard with the screwdriver, just absolutely stealing hubcaps and stuff.
And hopefully coming to my bar, which is around the corner from Bar Rockaholic, so you can have a night out. Have a good
Lost
night out.
Bar. Bar Rockaholic, back to Lost Bar. That's closed now. Go back to Bar Rockaholic. Beautiful. Karaoke bar. Dancing. Fantastic.
But just as long as there's no drinking in the streets, because that is, of course, banned now in Shibuya, right? You can't drink out and about.
Yeah. Can I have an open canister of alcohol, aka my stomach and mouth? Am I allowed to walk around with booze in my belly? Is that allowed?
I think you can get away with that.
Know.
Don't you worry.
Yeah.
It's going to be a shame though. Like I saw an article today that Halloween in Shibuya has been all but cancelled. Like fun has been banned. It's a real shame. I mean, look, I didn't really enjoy the Halloween festivities in Shibuya. It was very crowded, very loud, very drunken, messy. But I did kind of like the vibe that, oh wow, people having fun in Tokyo. Like that. It's a rare thing on that scale. And I know you used to love it. It was your favourite thing.
Loved it. Absolutely loved it.
And they basically outlawed it this year, starting with the, alcohol. But also I think they basically just banned fun in Shibuya. Like they're not allowing people to party around the crossing. I suspect there's multiple reasons for this. Number one, there's a lot more tourists this year than previous years, right? And I think that influx, they're worried about having a sort of stampede of people, as happened in Korea, tragically, South Korea a few years back. But and then also there was that incident, wasn't there, kind of like half a decade ago now, where some drunken Japanese folks and foreign tourists flipped over like a K truck, and that got some bad publicity. That might do it as well. But it's a sad thing. It's a sad thing. But also, one good thing about people not drinking on the streets is it's good for the bar business. So swings and roundabouts, really, isn't it? Loss of culture, increased bar revenue. I'll it's a fine line. It's a fine line. But yeah, no, it'd be cool to have you over and to also show you the studio. You haven't bloody seen the studio ever. in all these years in Sendai Tokyo.
In what state of disrepair are those sweets that everyone was stealing? I mean, I
Oh.
imagine. I mean, they were already on the periphery of the best before date. Where are we now? I mean, presumably they're going to be absolutely cooked by the time I get there.
You know what? I actually should probably get rid of them because I dread to think what is taking place inside that plastic.
Yeah.
You know, this is all the sweets, right? And behind me, behind this wall, we've got the street with the candy store, the Dagasia, which is like the old traditional sweet shop. And there is a lot of sweets in there. It's probably like $200 worth of sweets. And at one point, 3 years ago now, they were edible. And they're not now. But you can try them.
Okay.
You come in, you can have a few. Take your pick, and we'll see what state they're in. See, like McDonald's French fries.
See what happens. Yeah,
you drop them down the back of your car seat, and 5 years later, it's still there, perfectly maintained.
Oh, I hate that. Yeah, they are weirdly kind of always the same. I've never tasted one, but I imagine they taste exactly the same.
Oh Christ! But I should probably switch those out and probably tidy the studio. You coming here is a good excuse for me to have a much needed tidy up in here. It's really. Gone to shit in recent times, and also because of the summer heat, while I was away over the summer, it got really hot in here, and all the stickers and things have fallen off the bloody walls. So I've got to go around with a Pritt stick and sort that out. We got a story here from Grant and Rhiannon, who says, "Dear Chris and Pete, we're fans of all things abroad in Japan, and have basically planned our trip based on your recommendations. Our adventures began in Tokyo before heading to Kanazawa, down through Shiwakawa, and finally ending in Takayama." Oh, I love a bit of Takayama. After bowling one evening, my partner... Hang on, bowling in Takayama, the old traditional town of Takayama, with the old traditional streets. Let's go bowling. Interesting choice. The next day, the pain of bowling was excruciating, so we went to the hospital. God, it must have been bad. Seeking medical advice in Japan is seemingly a nightmare at the weekends. Yes, it is. But we did eventually see a doctor who diagnosed it as muscular pain and sent us away with the weakest paracetamol available. Yes, painkillers in Japan certainly leave a lot to be desired. Sorry, back at Ariokan, things took a turn for the worse. My partner's right side of her face became paralysed. Jesus. Calling a physio friend in a panic, he tried to diagnose her over the phone, suggesting that it was likely a pinched nerve. The next day, on the train to Osaka, my partner's condition deteriorated rapidly. By the time we got to her hotel, she was in bad shape. She lost mobility across her entire face. I went to the hotel staff and called an ambulance. When the ambulance crew arrived, they informed us that hospitals basically shut down on Sundays and that it would cost a fortune to get her admitted. After a heated exchange, they agreed to take her to the nearest hospital, and they whisked her away for all sorts of tests, which came back clear, stumping the doctors. They decided to admit her, but only having me pay a 300,000 yen deposit, about $2,000. Jesus. On the third night, her condition got so bad that the nurse found my partner on the floor in extreme pain. One staff member asked to pray for her. Miraculously, my partner's pain gradually subsided, and she managed to get her first night's sleep since this ordeal began. After a total of 5 nights with no diagnosis at all, they discharged her with some medicine, and we proceeded to try and salvage what was left of our adventure. We got back to Australia, and my partner is doing a lot better now, although still not fully recovered. We love Japan and hope to come back one day, but we were surprised with the healthcare. They seemed very reluctant to give us medicine, and we couldn't believe that hospitals seemingly come to a halt on the weekend. What's been your experience of the medical system while in Japan? Any horror stories from travels abroad? We love abroad in Japan. Keep up the great work, guys. All the best. Grant and Rhiannon from Australia. Oh dear. Oh dear, oh dear. Yes, the whole hospitals being shut on a Sunday thing doesn't make sense, as if the human body is designed in Japan not to have a heart attack or stroke on the weekend. Yeah, it's awful though. What the hell happened, do you think? As a doctor yourself, Pete, Dr. Pete.
As a doctor myself,
what's your diagnosis?
I mean, goodness knows. I mean, the problem with these things is like where they have very little kind of outward. Well, obviously massive symptoms, but it doesn't seem like one thing. Like there's loads of things that can cause that, but you can go downhill very, very quickly in those situations. Yeah. So you're not really sure, are you?
It's weird that like pulling a muscle would do that.
Yeah, but it's supposed to be like really like Japanese sort of healthcare is supposed to be quite spacious and quite good, but getting into that system sounds like it's really, really difficult. Yes,
I mean, look, I've talked about at length in my own bloody stories many a time about, going to the doctor and having an endoscopy that went horribly wrong because they were clearly not very good at it, and they forgot to put the paper in the printer to take the fucking photos of the endoscopy.
That's right, yes, I remember now,
you know, I've ranted about that many a time. And I've had a few bad experiences, and Charlotte had a bad experience when she had a thyroid issue. She went to a doctor in Sendai, and I was in the waiting room, and she came out, and I went, oh, you know, what's the situation? She had her thyroid swole up so bad she couldn't, like, swallow. It was really scary. And the doctor was like, maybe it's cancer. Come back in 2 months. And it was like, what the fuck? And it was just really bad and impersonal. Now, since then, she's been to like 3 thyroid doctors in Japan, and there's been 2 that were quite good. But that experience really shook her up and was quite a wake-up call. And she ended up going to America for the surgery on her thyroid, because it turns out Japan just doesn't really do thyroid stuff. They don't really know what's going on, and they're like 5-10 years behind the rest of the world. Once you get in a hospital, I think the care is generally all right here. Although I do remember American Pete going in for appendicitis, and they did not give him painkillers, which is, and I'm told appendicitis, I hope I don't ever get it, touch bloody wood, is one of the most painful things you can have. Like my friend Dave, he had it in the UK, and he got given some morphine, and the swelling went down, and the situation was abated. Whereas Pete was left to like die in pain in the fucking ward, and I've never forgotten that. And he, you know, he had some real horror stories from his time in a Japanese hospital that made me think, I don't want to be here for anything bad. No. So yeah, I know the UK is not much better from experiences from friends, but I think I'd rather be there than here, to be honest, for a major situation. So bear that in mind. But yeah, I hope you're doing all right though.
You've really got to kind of like be quite forthright, which is a very non-British kind of way of dealing with things. You've got to be very sort of like, I need help, and you've got to be very clear and forceful, I think, to access.
Absolutely. But yeah, but I hope Rhiannon is doing better now, Grant, after that mishap. What a shame. Awful. What a terrible thing to happen, especially in such a beautiful place as Takayama. I'm not going fucking bowling there. I'm off to Takayama next week, and I'm going to avoid the bowling. No more bowling for me.
Yeah.
Sod
no
that.
more bowling.
Painful sport. But we have a new Prime Minister in Japan, and he recently had a photo with his cabinet. And it turned out the photo was so awful that it had to be photoshopped. Pete, fill us in on this weird story involving the Prime Minister.
Yeah, well, Japan's got a new cabinet, as we spoke about on previous episodes, and and basically there's been this big photo editing scandal taking place. An official photo from the cabinet, the official photo of the fellas and a couple of women was manipulated to make members look less unkempt. Photos taken by local media showed the new Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba and his Defence Minister with small patches of white shirts showing under their suits and creases in their trousers. But when it came to the official photo issued by the Prime Minister's office, the untidiness had been disappeared. We've been absolutely Kim Kardashian. We've tidied everything up. We're out there. Apparently, the government spokesperson Yoshimasa Hayashi says that minor editing is customarily performed on these photos, but literally everyone's taking the piss. It's more hideous than a group picture of some kind of a seniors club during a trip to a hot spring. It's utterly embarrassing, wrote one person on X. And a lot of people, because I remember when this photograph came out, there's that kind of like slightly left-wing, quite funny suit guy who talks about how poorly mainly Republican senators dress on Twitter /X, as it's now more commonly known. And basically people were saying, can we get a take on this, please? Because the cabinet look like absolute shit. There's creases everywhere. The trousers aren't kind of fitting properly. They're kind of like collecting around the feet and stuff. So yeah, just ill-fitting trousers all round, and bits of shirts sort of tucking out, sort of popping out behind cummerbunds and shirts and stuff. It's it's a real shit show. But they've tidied it up for the nice official photo, which I think is absolutely fine. It puts me in mind of Michael Scott's editing in The Office that time.
I mean, I think there's no problem with this, really. I think it makes sense, right? I don't Photoshop my photos as much as I should. I really should. You know, get that face warping tool.
But when you're kind of some of the richest and most influential men in, you know, the Japanese What's it called? It's not the Doomer, is it?
The diet.
That's the old Russians, isn't it? The diet. They should be able to have tailors who can figure out how long your leg is. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of.
You would hope
There's a lot. There's the guy in the middle. It is actually the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister, he's got some real issues with sort of bunching around the feet. He needs to shorten. He needs a shorter leg on that.
He needs to abide by Dove's beauty standards, as we
he does, yeah.
covered last week,
out,
right?
Kawaii beauty standards.
Mid-face. What was it? You have to have a mid-face of 6 centimetres or something ridiculous.
Yes, I believe so, yeah.
Get that mid-face sorted. Jesus. It's a weird story. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how he gets on, old Shigeru Ishiba. He's... you tend to find new Prime Minister arrives in Japan, their popularity nosedives in the first month, and then they never recover and they're gone before the end of the week. So it's going to be interesting to see kind of what happens. He's kind of got this bit of a playful, funny grandpa vibe going on, though. People sort of treat him with this sort of, I don't know, grandpa vibe. But it's going to be interesting. There's a very loud siren out front.
Oh, yeah, maybe it's the healthcare that we were talking about earlier, so hard to access.
It's a Friday, not a Sunday, so you can go to a hospital and sort out your health ills. We'll match the moment, guys, with your stories, comments and questions over in the fax machine.
Wow.
And we're back in the fax machine. What's going on this week, Mr. Donaldson? Fill us in.
We got a message from fax machine number 1. Hello, Chris and Pete. This is from Anthony from North Carolina. My name is Anthony, or Anthony. I'm planning a trip to Tokyo, but I'm worried about the airport. From my understanding, Haneda and Narita are among the busiest and biggest airports in Japan. I'm afraid I'll get completely lost or turn around. Do you have any suggestions or tips or how to navigate those 2 airports, and which ones do you suggest travelling to? Always Haneda, Anthony, if you can stand it. I would say that Haneda, it's pretty straightforward. You get kicked out the door once you've gone through customs. You get kicked out the door, and there's literally a lift and an escalator right in front of you. You got your Suica cards you can buy. There's an off license / apothecary to your right, and you're just straight onto the metro pretty much if you fancy it, or taxi, or however you choose to haul ass, so to speak.
Yeah, I fucking can't stand Narita. It's such a messy airport. It's very old, very outdated, very crowded. You can tell, Haneda's like the nice one where the locals go, and Narita's the messy one. What I will say, though, is if you are staying in like Ueno on the east side of Tokyo or towards like Asakusa, Narita is actually better connected to that area. There's a line called the Keisei Skyliner. Takes about 40 minutes, whips you straight from Narita right into the middle of Ueno. So that's quite good. Yeah. And Haneda is a bit more complicated in some respects, but they do have a lot of buses from Haneda that take you potentially to your hotel in Shinjuku or Shibuya, and they've got like the monorail as well, and the Keio line, but the Keihin Tohoku line. But basically, Haneda's nicer, and it's much more fun waking up in Tokyo and knowing you've got to go to Haneda and not bloody Narita, because Narita's not even really in Tokyo, it's in Chiba. So bear that in mind. We got one here from Heath, who says, hello, Lost Bar owner Chris and Pete the bar enthusiast. Chris, what's your process when engaging in making content with a new YouTuber? How do you vet them and ensure they are the right fit for the Abroad in Japan universe? And Pete, what are your plans for your next Japan trip? What are you most excited for? All the best, guys. Heath from Brisbane, Australia. I actually had a really big YouTuber reach out the other day. He wants to collab when he's in Japan. He does food. I won't say who it is in case it all falls through.
Jordan Peterson.
It's not Jordan Peterson. It's not. I choose my words very carefully.
I only eat Valium and meat.
Isn't that literally your diet?
Yeah, delicious. I'm not having a go at him. I think it should be more widely adopted.
Have your Valium and shepherd's pie.
The world is letting all the men down. I need some meat and Valium.
We need Jordan Donaldson, the Jordan Peterson we deserve.
He's got some funny suits.
He does. He's an interestingly dressed man. Enough about Peterson. Collaborating with someone that's definitely not him. And it should be good. If it goes ahead, it'll be rather fun. I've been lucky to meet a lot of YouTubers I respect and admire over the years, like yourself. What was your fucking channel called? I review planes or something. I review planes
now.
My
last video was some years ago when I pretended to be a Frenchman reviewing your
that was quite fun.
one of your videos.
That was a fine moment. Tom Scott. Met Tom Scott, the great Tom Scott.
Tom Scott, yes.
He was good.
We did a little pilot with Tom Scott. He's a lovely bloke. Him and his co-conspirator. He does a good show called Lateral, which we piloted up, but couldn't come to any sort of arrangement financially.
Oh no!
Spent a lot of time on that pilot.
Bloody Tom Scott.
But he's a good bloke. He's got that kind of background for me that's a little bit kind of sort
old
of
school media
community. Yeah, old school. He's proper like radio guy kind of.
Yeah.
He's a real proper like. Yeah, he's a real one-off and stuff. Does he still do videos? Because I think he sort of decided to sort of knock it all on the head, didn't he?
So for I think 10 years, almost exactly, he released a video without fail every single Monday, which is an incredible feat as somebody who's failed to release a video weekly for 10 years. Well, his videos are a lot different in nature. They require more research but less production quality. And we actually helped him when he came to Japan. It was my production team, my friends that actually worked with him and helped him produce his series. So we did kind of explore, he did say to me something along the lines of, if you want to do a collab, let me know. But I just couldn't think of a video to do with him. And I don't really like collabing with people on my channel because I don't know what to do. I'm usually a monster. I need people like Connor who I can annoy and bully.
Abuse,
Yeah, exactly. or Ryotaro. It doesn't work when it's actually someone I like or respect.
Yeah.
So,
awful man. What an awful man Chris is.
And there was Johnny Harris, who makes really good geopolitical commentary videos.
Right.
It was, but this next person is equally big, very interesting chap, and looking forward to meeting him. When he does eventually come here. So I don't really vet people. And I'm going to go on his channel. I don't think he's going to come on mine, basically. So I don't really have a vetting process. But essentially, it's if I collab with someone, I have to know them at least a year, essentially, and actually be real friends with them. I fucking hate shoehorning people into a video when there's no chemistry. It doesn't work. So even with Connor, it took me a year of knowing him before I was like, okay, let's do a video together. I think if your relationship isn't authentic, it shows in the video and it doesn't work as a result. So it's really
Chris,
important.
will you come on my video, please? I'm going to be reviewing all the family.
No.
Check it out.
No chance.
Shame. That is a shame.
And finally, Quinton from the Netherlands says, hello, Chris and Pete. I will be moving to Tokyo for 2 years to work in early 2025. 2 questions. Do you have any tips to prepare for moving to Japan? And do you have any suggestions for nice neighbourhoods to live in and around the Tokyo station area? I can't wait to move and visit your bar. For now, I'm happy just watching and listening along. Regards, Quinton from the Netherlands. Nice work, Quinton. I mean, Tokyo Station, there are some nice areas you can live around there. I can't remember the name of the bloody island. It's near Toyosu. Maybe it's just called Toyosu, isn't it? Over across the bay. There's lots of new apartments that are quite nice.
Yeah.
Easy access to Tokyo Station. Very modern. Like Kachidoki area. It's quite nice. It's near Team Lab Planets. That whole area.
Oh,
Ariake.
yes. There's a few of those. There's a few of those bad lads around those, isn't there? The old Team Labs. They sort of to varying degrees of awesomeness. But I did manage to visit last time. It was really good.
I mean, it's quite a cool area to live. Like, there's lots of things to see and do, and it's well connected. Especially if you're working around Tokyo Station. As for preparing to move to Japan, I mean, just watch YouTube, innit? And desensitize yourself. When I moved here, there really wasn't much for me to watch. I had to sort of do my own research and just sort of... I kind of like the fact that I turned up here with few expectations and little knowledge, and things happened, I like that. But, just bring some money, innit? Bring $3,000 or $4,000, add a credit card, add a smile, and the world is your oyster, as far as I'm concerned. But best of luck to you. Have a good one. Keep the stories, questions, comments coming in, guys, to abroadjapanpodcast@gmail.com. We'll be back late in the week to do all over again. And now I'm very excited that Pete Dawson is finally coming here at last.
Yeah.
For the first time in 5 years, we can actually hang out together in Tokyo. 4.5 years.
Collabing.
Jesus.
We're just going to collab and kiss.
It's the collab.
Collab in your bar.
The
I'm going to collaborate with some of your excellent cocktails in Lost Bar.
Good man. Collaborate. It's the collaboration we neither need nor deserve, but I'm looking forward to it either way. But for now, guys, have yourself a great few days, and we'll see you right back here to do it all over again on the Abroad Japan podcast. Bye for now. Have a good one.